What is going on, everybody? My name is Josie. Today we're going to be talking about a little horror indie film called All Fun and Games. You have a group of teens in Salem who discover a cursed knife that unleashes a demon that forces them to play gruesome and deadly versions of childhood games, where there can only be no winners, only survivors. The film is starring Natalia Dyer from Stranger Things and Asa Butterfield from Ender's Game. And when it comes down to indie horror films or indie films that go on VOD, usually you're going to be surprised by some of them. Some of them are pretty decent and some of them will surprise the living hell out of you. The last indie film that I checked out on VOD that I really enjoyed and was really surprised by was a little indie film called Soft and Quiet. Which it was none of that. That was one of those films where it really came out of nowhere and really surprised you. You also had a couple of other films that really didn't hit well with me. So when it came down to All Fun and Games, I had no idea which side of the spectrum this movie was going to hit me. And while I think this movie has a very interesting concept, you have this knife that is enchanted with these words that you say. If you say them, you get possessed. And I think it takes a very interesting take at the possession genre where it may or may not surprise you. I personally like the take that they gave us in this movie. However, this film was not executed as greatly as I kind of wish it was. While I enjoyed the concept, I think you could have had a really fun film in here with characters that you could have easily kind of liked. However, the main characters that we have in this movie are very unlikable and you really can't get behind any of them, and you kind of wish they all died because they all feel like they all hate each other. And I get it, you kind of need that sibling rivalry, except you can execute it a little bit better than it was in this movie. And I think all that comes from the direction of this film, where it doesn't feel like they were directed all too well, and it just felt like it was going all over the place. And personally, I'm just sick and tired of the possession genre because they're all basically the same things. While this movie kind of takes it in a different way, kind of, it makes you play games like Red Over, hide and seek, little childhood games like that you used to play when you were a kid. Because this should have been a fun little horror film that could keep all that blood and gore, but you could have added an element of fun. And I think that is where this movie kind of disappointed me a little bit. It takes itself way too seriously, and it's not all fun and games. It's all just boring and lackluster. I really enjoyed Natalia Dyer in Stranger Things. This movie was not it for her, and it could have been because we had Joe Keery do this little horror film during the pandemic called Spree, and that was the movie for me where I was able to see Joe Keery, the actor, and I was not thinking about Steve, and he was able to transform into that role. With Natalia Dyer, I kind of wish this was the role for her because right now, whenever you think about her, you only think about her from Stranger Things. And I kind of wish this movie was a little bit more of her coming out of her shell and kind of coming out of that Stranger Things role. I don't think that did it for me personally, but I just have to hand it over to the direction of this film because it was not directed well at all. There you could have added an element of fun and still kept that serious tone. However, it was serious from beginning to end, and I just did not give a shit about one of these characters either surviving or dying, and I think that is the fault of the direction and the writing because everything else was just terrible. Interesting concept, terrible execution. But overall, I'm going to go ahead and give All Fun and Games a 2 out of 10. Like I said, the concept of this movie is very interesting, and you could have had an element of fun. And if they were able to remake this movie for a wide release and added a little bit more to these characters, I think you could have had a little bit more fun, but it was just all of the direction that really kind of made it falter for me. But those are my thoughts on All Fun and Games. I know nobody has ever heard of this movie except for me, but if you are interested in this type of movie, go ahead and let me know why. If you're planning on checking it out on streaming, that is probably where it's going to get its most legs. But go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys soon.